For 28 years, one word followed me everywhere. Affair child. It didn't matter where I was. At home, at school, at family gatherings. That label always arrived before I did. My father made sure of it. My mistake, he used to say, pointing at me during arguments. The proof of her betrayal. I learned early how to keep my head down, how to stay quiet, how to pretend words didn't bruise. But the truth was, I heard everything. My name is Ethan Miller, and for most of my life, I was treated like evidence of a crime I never committed. I was 5 the first time I understood I didn't belong. We were at a family barbecue. Everyone laughing, plates full, music playing. I ran toward my father, holding a drawing I'd made of us stick figures, crooked smiles. He barely looked at it. "Go show your mother," he said coldly. "I'm not your real dad anyway." People laughed awkwardly, thinking it was a joke. It wasn't. That sentence followed me into adulthood. Whenever relatives visited, my father would remind them, sometimes subtly, sometimes loudly, "He's not really mine. You know how his mother was." God knows who his real father is. My mother never defended me. She would just look down, silent, ashamed. That silence hurt more than the insults. At school, rumors spread. Kids repeat what adults whisper. By 13, classmates were calling me the affair kid. Teachers looked at me with pity. Parents kept their distance. I learned to rely on myself. No birthday parties, no encouragement, no pride, just survival. When I turned 18, my father sat me down. "I've done my duty," he said. "You're an adult now. Don't expect anything from me." I nodded. I had stopped expecting things a long time ago. I worked 2 jobs through college, slept 4 hours a night, never complained. At graduation, my father didn't come. Later, I heard him tell an uncle, "Why would I celebrate another man's son?" By 28, the story of my origin had become family legend. The woman who cheated, the man who stayed anyway, the child who didn't belong. Except, there was one problem. I had started noticing things. I looked exactly like my father. Same jawline, same eyes, same posture. Strangers would stop us in public and say, "You two look identical." My father would stiffen. "He takes after someone else." He'd snap. That was the moment doubt began to grow. The idea of a DNA test didn't come from anger. It came from exhaustion. I was tired of carrying a name that wasn't mine. Tired of defending myself against a lie I never created. Tired of wondering if maybe I really didn't belong. So I ordered the test. Didn't tell anyone. Not my mother. Not my father. Not even my closest friend. I took the sample late at night, hands shaking. Not because I feared the result, but because I knew whatever the truth was, it would end something forever. When the email arrived 2 weeks later, I didn't open it immediately. I sat on my bed, staring at the screen. 28 years of shame, about to be answered by one file. I clicked, and in that moment, everything I had been told about my life collapsed. I stared at the screen for a full minute before my eyes could focus. The DNA report was open, clear, clinical, unemotional. Probability of paternity, 99.98%. My father was my biological father. There was no ambiguity, no gray area, no room for interpretation. For 28 years, I had carried a lie that wasn't even clever enough to survive science. My hands started shaking, not with joy, not with relief, but with something heavier. Grief. Grief for the boy who believed he deserved the hatred. Grief for the man who worked twice as hard to prove he belonged. Grief for the years I would never get back. I laughed once. A dry, broken sound. "So that's it," I whispered. "That's the truth." I expected anger to come next. It didn't. What came instead was clarity. The next morning, I went to my parents' house, unannounced. My father was in the living room, watching TV. Same chair, same posture, same man who had spent my entire life reminding me I wasn't his. He looked up, annoyed. "What do you want?" he asked. I held up the envelope. "We need to talk." My mother appeared from the kitchen, eyes widening when she saw my face. She knew. Somehow, she always knew when the past was about to catch up. I sat down slowly and placed the DNA report on the table. "What's this?" My father asked, already defensive. A DNA test, I said calmly. Mine and yours. His jaw tightened. You trying to insult me now? He snapped. No, I replied. I'm done being insulted. I slid the paper closer to him. Read it. He didn't want to. I could see it in his eyes, the fear, the hesitation, the instinct to reject reality if it threatened the story he'd told himself for decades. My mother whispered, please. Finally, he picked it up. He read once, then again. His face drained of color. That's impossible, he muttered. She cheated. My mother flinched. She didn't, I said quietly. You just needed to believe she did. Silence fell like a weight. You spent 28 years punishing me for something that never happened, I continued, and punishing her for a crime she didn't commit. My father slammed the paper down. This proves nothing, he barked. Tests can be wrong. I nodded. That's what I thought you'd say. I pulled out my phone and placed it beside the report. 3 labs, I said. Independent. Same result. My mother broke down. She covered her face, sobbing in a way I had never seen before. I tried to tell you, she cried. I begged you to believe me. My father stood up abruptly, pacing. You humiliated me, he said to her. You let people think. No, I interrupted. You humiliated yourself. You just used me to hide it. That was the moment something cracked in him. Not guilt, not remorse. Pride. He looked at me, eyes burning. So what now? He demanded. You want an apology? You want me to beg? I studied him carefully. No, I said. I want acknowledgement. He laughed bitterly. For what? For the boy you broke, I replied. For the man you tried to erase. My mother reached for my hand. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I should have protected you. I squeezed her hand gently. I know, but I didn't look at my father, because I realized something important in that moment. Truth doesn't always bring reconciliation. Sometimes, it only brings exposure. That night, word spread fast. Family members called. Texts poured in. Is it true? Your dad's really your father? We always wondered. I ignored most of them, because suddenly, everyone wanted a relationship with the son they'd quietly dismissed. But I wasn't interested in being reclaimed. I was interested in being free. My father didn't call, not that night, not the next day. And that silence told me everything I needed to know. He wasn't sorry for what he'd done. He was angry that the lie no longer protected him. And I knew then, the hardest part wasn't proving the truth. The hardest part would be deciding what to do with it. Truth doesn't arrive quietly. It spreads. By the end of the week, everyone knew. Aunties who had whispered behind closed doors suddenly called to check on me. Uncles who had avoided eye contact for years now wanted to meet for coffee. Cousins sent messages filled with awkward apologies. We never really believed it. You always seemed different. Your dad was just angry. Angry. What a small word for decades of cruelty. At the first extended family gathering after the DNA results, the room felt tense. Conversations stopped when I entered. Eyes followed me, some sympathetic, some curious, some ashamed. My father sat in his usual spot, but something was different. For the first time, he looked uncertain. People didn't laugh at his jokes anymore. They didn't nod along when he spoke. The authority he'd carried for years had cracked. Someone finally said it out loud. So, the test was real? My father stiffened. Yes, he said through clenched teeth. But things aren't that simple. I almost smiled, because for once, they were. I cleared my throat. It actually is simple, I said calmly. I'm his son. I always was. Silence. My father shot me a warning look, the same one he used when I was a child and dared to speak. But this time, it didn't work. I didn't cheat, my mother said softly. I told you all for years. No one listened. Heads turned toward her. For the first time, she wasn't whispering. She was standing. My father stood up abruptly. This is not the place for this. It's exactly the place, I replied. Because this is where the lie lived. Murmurs rippled through the room. An uncle shook his head. Why would you do that to your own kid? My father's face reddened. He wasn't mine, he snapped instinctively. Then he froze. The room went dead silent, because everyone had heard it, and everyone knew it wasn't true. My mother covered her mouth. I felt something loosen in my chest. That sentence repeated for decades had finally turned against him. I didn't raise my voice. I was always yours, I said quietly. You just chose not to be mine. That was the moment the narrative collapsed. No shouting, no drama, just clarity. People started leaving early. Conversations died out. The gathering ended not with laughter, but with reflection. My father left without saying goodbye. Later that night, my phone buzzed. A message from him. We need to talk. Privately. I stared at it for a long time before replying. We already did. Publicly. Minutes passed, then another message. You embarrassed me. I typed back slowly. You embarrassed yourself. I just stopped protecting the lie. He didn't respond. For days, weeks. And strangely, I felt lighter with every day of silence. Because the absence of his voice was no longer punishment. It was peace. I started living differently. Not louder, not flashier. Just truer. I spoke when I wanted to. I stopped apologizing for existing. I stopped shrinking myself to keep others comfortable. People noticed. You seem confident? A coworker said. You're different, a friend remarked. They were right. I was no longer trying to earn a place in a family that had already proven I didn't need their permission. One evening, my mother came to visit me alone. She looked smaller somehow. Older. I should have left, she said quietly. I should have taken you and gone. I shook my head. You did what you thought would protect me. She nodded, eyes wet. You're stronger than both of us. I hugged her for the first time without resentment. A month later, I received an invitation. A family reunion. Bigger. Public. My father's name was on it. So was mine. I knew what it meant. This was his attempt to regain control. To rewrite the ending. But this time, I wouldn't let him. Because I had learned the most important lesson of my life. You don't need to scream to reclaim your truth. You just need to stop lying for others. And the next time I saw him, I wouldn't be the child he labeled. I would be the man he could no longer silence. Power doesn't always shout. Sometimes, it waits. The reunion was held in a rented hall downtown. Bright lights, round tables, forced smiles. A banner read, "Family is forever." I almost laughed. He arrived alone. No armor, no anger, just clarity. The moment I walked in, conversations slowed, heads turned, whispers followed. Not about rumors this time, but about truth. My father stood near the front, greeting people like a politician. Same posture, same confident grin. But when our eyes met, his smile slipped. "Ethan," he said, stepping forward. "You came. You invited me." I replied evenly. He nodded, gesturing toward a table. "We should talk. Clear the air." There it was, the stage. We sat, plates untouched. The noise of the room faded around us. "You've been distant," he began. "People are confused." "People aren't confused," I said. "They're just no longer pretending." His jaw tightened. "You're enjoying this." I shook my head. "I'm surviving it." He leaned in, voice low. "You don't understand what you're doing. Families talk. They forget." "I remember," I replied. "That's the difference." His eyes darkened. "You've turned everyone against me." I met his stare. "No." I stopped turning myself against me. For a moment, he said nothing. Then he tried something new. "I was hard on you because I wanted you strong," he said, louder now enough for nearby tables to hear. "You were sensitive, weak." I smiled faintly. "There it is," I said. "The greatest hits." A few heads turned. "You called me weak," I continued calmly, "while I carried your shame. You called me nothing, while I built myself from it." He scoffed. "You think this test changes history? It changes the future," I said. People were watching now. Not obviously, but listening. "You want an apology?" he asked. I shook my head. "I wanted a father. That opportunity passed. The words landed harder than any insult. His face flushed. You think you're better than me now? No, I said gently. I think I'm free of you. That did it. He stood abruptly, knocking his chair back. You're ungrateful. Silence rippled. I stood too, but slower. I was a child, I said, voice steady. Gratitude wasn't my job. Protection was yours. Every eye in the room was on us now. You raised your voice to feel powerful. I continued. I don't need to. My mother appeared beside me. I'm proud of you, she said. Something in my father's expression cracked, not anger, fear, because he realized something terrifying. He no longer mattered. I turned to the room. I'm not here to fight, I said. I'm here to end a lie. This ends with me. Then I walked out. No applause. No chaos. Just stunned silence. Outside, the night air felt clean, like oxygen after drowning. My phone buzzed as I reached my car. A message from my father. You'll regret this. I didn't reply, because for the first time in my life, I didn't need the last word. Weeks passed. The family dynamic shifted permanently. Some reached out. Some stayed silent. I didn't chase either. I focused on building something real work. Friendships. Purpose. Not revenge. Release. One evening, I ran into an old friend. You okay? He asked. I smiled. Better than okay. I'm myself. That night, I sat alone, thinking about the boy who had grown up believing he was unwanted. He was wrong. He was just waiting to meet himself. A letter arrived a month later, handwritten, from my father. 3 pages. Excuse. Regret disguised as justification. An apology that never quite said sorry. I folded it carefully and put it away. Not because it healed me, but because it no longer controlled me. The real revenge wasn't public humiliation. It wasn't anger. It was this. A life untouched by his shadow. And as I looked toward the future, I realized the quiet comeback was almost complete. Success doesn't arrive with noise. It arrives with peace. 1 year after the reunion, my life looked nothing like the one they predicted I'd fail at. I had my own apartment, simple, clean, quiet. A job I earned, not inherited. Friends who chose me, not tolerated me. And most importantly, I slept without nightmares. No more replaying my father's words. No more proving myself to ghosts. One morning, I got a call from the hospital. My father had collapsed. Heart complications. They asked if I was family. I paused. Yes, I said. I'll come. Not out of obligation. Out of closure. The hospital room smelled like antiseptic and regret. He looked smaller than I remembered. The man who once filled rooms with fear now barely filled the bed. His eyes opened when he heard my footsteps. Ethan, he whispered. I pulled a chair closer and sat. No anger, no rehearsed speech, just truth. I didn't think you'd come, he said. I didn't think I wouldn't, I replied. Silence stretched between us. I was wrong, he finally said. His voice cracked. About everything. I waited. Not because I needed to, because he needed to say it. I let my insecurity turn into cruelty, he continued. You weren't the problem. I was. For the first time in my life. He didn't defend himself. He didn't minimize. He didn't blame. He just admitted. I don't expect forgiveness, he said. But I needed you to know. You were always mine. And I failed you. Something shifted in my chest. Not healing. Acceptance. I know, I said quietly. And I survived anyway. Tears slid down his face. I'm proud of you, he whispered. I stood. I hope you are, I said. Because that's enough. And I walked out. That was the last time I saw him alive. The funeral was small. I stood at the back. Not hidden. Not afraid. Just present. People watched me not with pity, but respect. They saw a man who outgrew the pain meant to define him. Afterward, my mother hugged me tightly. You broke the cycle, she whispered. I nodded. I know. Months later, something unexpected happened. A letter arrived, not from family. From a foundation. They had read my story about identity, rejection, resilience. They offered me a position, helping kids labeled mistakes, problems, unwanted. Kids who felt like I once did. I accepted immediately. On my first day, a boy asked me quietly, "Do people ever stop hating you?" I smiled and knelt to his level. "They don't stop," I said. "But one day it won't matter." "Why?" "Because you'll like yourself too much." That night, I stood on my balcony, city lights below. I thought about the version of me who once believed his birth defined his worth. He was wrong. DNA didn't give me a name. Pain didn't give me purpose. I did. My parents once called me the affair child. But here's the truth. They never expected. I wasn't born from a mistake. I was born from survival. And I turned rejection into direction. Silence into strength. Pain into power. Some people chase revenge. I chose freedom. And that was the quiet comeback they could never take from me.